Oh, kia ora. Welcome, Easter Camp. And I was sitting in the bleachers there just before, and I was looking at all the people who stood up and came for the first time. And I want to say welcome, welcome, welcome. And for those of you who have returned, it's so good to have you back. I'm Blue. I'm the director of camp. I'll be serving you this year again as the director, and it's so good to have you all. We have been waiting for you. For 2 years, we have been waiting and dreaming of this night that we start to be together with Easter Camp. It's so good for you to be here. We've been building. We've got mudslides. We've got water slides. We've got donuts. We've got auditoriums. We've got songs. We've got dance. We've got seminars. We've got so many things for you to do. And we've been building and working really hard to make the best possible environment for you. So no my hiding my welcome to Easter Camp. Now, I'm a believer that COVID has ripped us off. You know, we should have been here last year, but COVID ripped us off, right? Stink COVID. But here's the funny thing I think about COVID. I reckon COVID's made us a little bit lazy, a little bit mundane, a little bit, you know, hey, do you guys want to go out? You know, they've got Netflix and pizzas and stuff like that, and everybody's staying at home. And it's really, really hard to break out of what I call the mundane, right? So many people are struggling with the snap out of it. Wake up, fix your eyes on something else, get out of Netflix. I can see that sun's in your eyes, eh? It sort of just gleams off the top of my bald head and just really sort of blinds you like that. It's like, well, you know, driving into the sunlight in the morning. And so this sort of malaise has been happening. It's gripped us. And I reckon it's time to wake up, wake up, wake up, awaken. So what does wake up mean? To activate, to enliven, to provoke, to revive, to incite or stir up. I reckon it's a good time. So what happens when we wake up? You know, with this, I reckon, two types of waking up in the mornings. There's that sort of slow, groggy sleep where it's called sleep inertia, where all this stuff sort of just, the light hits our eyes and it takes us about 30 minutes. You know that when mum and dad get up and they're just like, and all they want is coffee, right? Coffee's the first thing that makes them come alive. And half an hour. You know when you're late for the bus and you get up 3 minutes before the bus is leaving and then you're still asleep when you get to school? That's the inertia, the sleep. And then there's that wake up, that you wake up really suddenly because a spider has crawled into your bed, yeah? Or that mate of yours just like, wake up, slaps your face and you know, oh, there's a loud noise, a loud bang. One time I woke up abruptly, and I want to tell you this story. I was in Australia. Who's from Australia? Welcome. Your friends here too. And I went with my mates, and we're in Australia. Do you know that 80% of the most poisonous things on the planet live in Australia? Yeah? And then there's got some insects and snakes as well. No, you're our friends. And so I went over to Australia, and there was a heat wave, yeah? I went to do a community development course with my friends, and we were staying in this old house that they had turned into offices. And the thing about the heat wave is that there was just spiders everywhere. The Australians were scared of them. They'd never seen so many spiders. And the houses were close together, yeah? And the spiders made webs between the houses. It was crazy. And they were all just hanging up there in their webs, and at night time under a full moon, we dared each other to walk underneath the webs and look up at the spiders, and all these spiders are just dangling there, looking like stars, and it was freaky. And then there were snakes. Well, I walked past the snake. Well, I thought it was a snake. I let out a little man scream, you know, like you do. You know, like you do. And it's in the grass, and then I screamed, and I looked back, and then because I've never seen a snake. We don't have them in New Zealand, right? And so I walked up to it, and it wasn't actually a snake, it was a blue-tongued lizard, and its legs were buried in the grass, so it looked like a snake. And then later on that night, we were standing on a deck looking at the view, and this massive big bat came and just flared up in front of our faces, and I'm thinking, spiders, snakes, bats, what kind of crazy country is this? This is horrible. And those thoughts went through into my dreams, yeah? And there I am, we're in this office because we're lying in this office, and next to the filing cabinets under a desk, and we go to sleep. And in the middle of the night, the worst thing happened. A spider crawled on my face. It was not just a little spider, not the one you write nursery rhymes. It was a big, fat spider as big as my hand. It landed on my face. So I let out this manly scream. Like I was a 10-year-old again scream, that kind of scream, which was embarrassing because there was mates in the room. And then I grabbed that spider in my hand and I threw it as far as I could away from me. And it hit the filing cabinet. It must have squashed it. Boom! On the filing cabinet. And then guess what happened? It landed back on my face again. More manly screaming. And so I grabbed it, and this time it had changed. It had a girth on it. And I thought, I know, it's not a spider. It's one of those blue-tongued lizard things. And so I grabbed it. I grabbed it by its girth, and I smashed it. I was fighting for my life. I smashed it time and time and time again against the filing cabinet, all the while screaming, bang, bang, bang. And do you know what happened? My mate, who thought I was getting murdered, he goes up and he turns the light on, and you know what he saw? There he saw me holding my own hand, smashing it against the filing cabinet, fighting for my dear life, because I had fallen asleep on my hand. And as I rolled over, the spider hand bit. Who's done that? Yeah, don't leave me hanging. Who's done that? We've all done that, haven't we? We've all done that. And so I tell you, I was wide awake, and there was no way I was ever going to get to sleep again that night. The adrenaline was pumping in my veins. That's when you are awake, instant, and you find it hard to sleep. You are instantly transformed, and everything is alive. But then there's that other kind of awake. The sleepy, the groggy, it takes some time. Last year, I went to Spain with my wife, and we did a long walk called the Camino Santiago. And you arrive in France to the bottom of the mountains, and you climb over the mountains, and then you walk across Spain towards the sunset, and you just keep on walking for about 36 days. It's 800 kilometers. It's an old pilgrim trail, and it's beautiful. And people have been walking this for 1,300 years, and so you've become part of something bigger than yourself. And every day we used to wake up, put on our pack, walk in the darkness until the sun came up, find our food, find a coffee, for goodness sake, and then find somewhere to sleep later on that night on the trail. So we did about 25 or 30 Ks a day for many, many days until we got to a cathedral called Santiago. Now, the funny thing is, whenever we came to a town, we could tell who was on the pilgrimage, who was doing the Camino, and who was actually a townsperson. And the way we could do that was by looking at the way people walked. You see, if you were doing the Camino, you had a bad back, you had bad knees, and you had blisters on your feet, and you did what was called the Camino shuffle, like this. Every night people would walk, oh, and their knees would go, oh, and you could hear them coming, backs, knees, blisters, oh, like that, and it was hilarious. So, we would make friends with the Camino, doing the Camino shuffle. People on the Camino. One of my favorite things is the morning times on the Camino, because the sun hits the beauty of the landscape. But we start in the darkness, you see, and every morning, as the sun comes up and you look around, you can hear the groaning knees of the pilgrims go, oh, and the sun's coming up. Doesn't that remind you of a clip of the zombies, Dawn of the Dead? Every morning, the zombies would come up and they'll be following us on the Camino. It was hilarious. But the morning sun would it hit the light of the fields, this beige, this beautiful beige, you would come across these amazing, amazing photo opportunities. So I just took photos on my phone. The rule was you couldn't stay around and take a big photo, take the time, get the angles right. You just had to take 5 seconds, take the photo, and then carry on. We got some photos? Breathtaking photos. And then at night, people would say, hey, what did you take a photo of today? And we'd show them these photos. And they'd go, man, that's mean as. I love that photo. Cool photos, eh? Of beautiful countryside. One of the funny things, I like that photo, the bull. One of the funny things is in the mornings when I take photos of scenery, often there were people in the photos. And I'd go up to these people and say, hey, I got you in this photo. Do you want this photo? Not the photo of the bull, but other photos coming up. Unless they're not coming up. And then in another language, we'd work out how to airdrop it or email it or text it or something to these people. And some of these people became great friends. And some of them we finished the Camino with, and it was awesome. And so we'd be having dinner around that night, swapping photos. And people were saying, how did you get that photo? I'd say, oh, it was right there. You saw it, right? You went past it. It was right there. If you just stop and turn around, you'll see this amazing photo. The funny thing is, after a week of taking photos and showing my photos to people, a guy came up to me and he says, Blue, I don't understand how you're getting these photos. I mean, these are just photos off the phone. They're nothing flash. He says, I take a photo and you take a photo, and yet your photo's full of colour and flowers and meaning in it, and mine just looks, I said, Robbie. He said, how did you do it? He said, I think God just gave me a twisted mind and I see beauty everywhere. I just can't help but see beauty, you know? And he goes, here's the thing, Blue. I'm a photographer. I've sold my art, my photos in exhibitions, and you're kicking my butt. How? And I said, Robbie, if you just stop and look, you're surrounded by beauty. But there's so many people like the zombies, Dawn of the Dead. Every day they get up and they just want to put one foot in front of the other. And a destination mentality. You know, they're just fixated on the destination rather than the journey that they're on. And they're missing all the beautiful things. One person was so fixated on putting one foot in front of the other that they walked into 2 parked cars. Some might say that's my wife, but you didn't hear it from me. Thanks, honey. Here's the thing. Other people wanted to see the photos. Other people wanted to share the photos. And so we started, can I see the next photo? So we started a little competition at night because all of these people wanted to see photos. And the competition, we made up every day what it was going to be like. Okay, so I set what we were going to show. And the first day, we did wild weeds on the side of the road. Okay, so you had to stop and look at wild weeds. Okay, and then we showed the photos. And then the next day it was bell towers. You don't get that many places in New Zealand, and so we just took photos of bell towers. The next day it was animals. I love this. This is my favourite cow in the world. This caterpillar, let's stop on that. This caterpillar, when people said, where did you get that caterpillar? I said, you just stepped over it. It's right back there. You didn't miss it. And then next, my mate Robbie took that horse photo. The next photo was old people. He is cool, that guy. You can stop there. In Spain, all the guys hang out on one side of the road, all the old women hang out on the other side of the road, and they have a conversation across the road to each other, and you just walk right through it. It's beautiful. The next thing, spider webs. Who does that? That's my spider web photo of the morning. And then lastly, sunrises. This is my favourite sunrise photo of my wife. How fat is that big sun in there? It's a big fat sun. I love it. What this did to us on our walk is it actually made us slow down, posture ourselves, and look for the beauty. We added about another hour and a half onto every day's walk. But we were looking with intent to the beauty that surrounded us that we had missed when we were walking through the Camino. So people stopped and we celebrated each other's photos. They're just photos, you know, and people said, why are you taking these photos? What are you going to do with them? I didn't know I'd be talking about them here. I just said, I just take them because it makes my wife smile. You know, it just needs to be as simple as that. You see, there's beauty all around us, all of the time. It's just that sometimes in our lives we get stuck on this treadmill. You know, the same old thing, the same old patterns. Mum and dad always fighting. School's boring. We get on the bus every day. It's just this treadmill. And we just keep on going round and round. And we forget that there's beauty all around us unless somebody stops us and says, look at the beauty. Look at the beautiful things. Look how amazing the sunrise is. The simple things. Look how amazing our friendship group is. Beauty is everywhere. It's everywhere. If you choose to look at the beauty, if you awaken something within yourself, lift your eyes to gaze at the beauty everywhere. And that is in life. Life is surrounded by beauty, not just tragedy and tragic stories. Beauty is everywhere. And it's here at camp. There's beautiful things around camp. There's beauty in the stories that you're going to share with each other, with your friends. There's beauty in the stories that your leaders are going to share with you. There's beauty in the talks that people are going to be giving you, in the band that's been playing to you. In the mud pit, there's beauty. Every day that we've been here setting up, the sun has come up in the morning to a cloud of fog, and it is glorious if you choose to see it. But not only beauty. When you awaken to the beauty in the world, you awaken to the author who made all the beauty in this world. The God, the author of all the beauty that we can see and engage with, is here. And some of you might say, who the heck is this God? I don't see this God. What are you talking about? I'm telling you, if you lift your gaze, if you pivot what you see, you will see the handprint of God everywhere. You will hear the voice of God everywhere. This weekend, if you expect to meet this God, you will. Because God is everywhere, the author of all beauty. Not only that, as we're going to dive into the Easter story this weekend, this beautiful story of the death, the resurrection of Jesus. We're going to talk a lot about that story and the beauty and the tragedy of that story. It's going to be everywhere. Are you going to look? Are you going to take the opportunity? Because you can spend your time here distracting yourself with all the things that are pretty and lights and stuff, which is great, by the way, but it's not the thing. You can distract yourself by telling yourself a narrative in your life that my life sucks and it's all bad, but it's not. It's not. Or you can posture yourself to awaken something of a God thing sent in you this weekend and look for the opportunity to connect with the God that the author of all beauty and creation, which includes you, by the way. Yeah? This Easter, this camp, this weekend, I beg you, please lift your gaze, awaken something, and if you do, I guarantee you that God will give you dreams that you never imagined. And I'm not talking about the kind of dreams where a spider attacks your face. I'm not talking about the kind of thinking that you are when you're a zombie, just walking, just getting one foot in front of the other in life. I'm talking about the dreams that you dream when you're wide awake, the God-given dreams for your life that can be awoken here this weekend. Yeah? Will you take the opportunity? Will you dare to ignite something, enliven something? I like this. Stir up something, incite something, and join God in that process, because God wants to meet you. We're going to dive into the story of Easter. I'm so glad you're here. I'm excited about what God's going to do with all of us. So, I'm going to end with a prayer, and the band's going to come up. Lord, may you give us dreams that I've just talked about. May you give us dreams that take us off the mundaneness of the treadmill. May you open our eyes to the beauty of your creation and all that is in here this weekend. Lord, may you meet us in the story of the resurrected Jesus, the story of Easter, the beautiful gift that you gave us. And Lord, we are expectant to hear your voice this weekend. Please meet us in your mighty name. Amen. Bless you guys.